Hi, my name is Knuth. Welcome to this overview of ION business rules. ION is a component service of Infor Operating Services, and ION acts as a system integration and automation platform. And that ION platform includes a business rules engine. And so when you're creating business process automation type flows, you can include rules from this business engine. And that means workflows that you also create on the ION platform can call these rules for approvals to decide based on a number of parameters who should approve something, and also just for general decision making to define rules for anything from pay scales to shipping rates to whatever you need it to do. And any other application can use these rules by calling the business rules API in our API gateway. You'll notice at the bottom of the screen, there's two icons for roles there. There's an editor role and approver role. An editor comes in and creates the rules. So you can have a manager or a business process owner come in and manage these rules and change who should, for example, be the approver for a certain type of task. But then you can have somebody be the approver for these rules so that when someone changes them, you can have someone come in and review those changes before they go into production. Now you should know that you have to assign these roles to the users in IFS. There's a decision service editor, and that's the person who creates and edits the rules. And then there's a decision service approver. That's who gets the ability to approve the changes that the editor makes. Let's take a look at how to do this. All right, I've navigated to the ION desk. That is from the app switcher up on top, ION desk. The person who either has the editor or the approver rule will have access to this ION desk. If that's the only role they have, they do not get access to the rest of ION desk to do all these other great things. They only get access to this business rules page that is in the monitors and workflows menu. Okay, so they don't have access to change anything else except the business rules. Once I'm here, if I want to create a new business role, I click on the big add button and I either create an approval matrix. That's a rule set for deciding who's going to approve something in a workflow process, for example, or a generic decision matrix. Let's go ahead and take a look at the approval matrix. I'll give this a name, approve POs, a description if I want to, and then I'll start adding parameters. And these parameters can be named anything you want. Let's say the company, the vendor, and the PO amount. All right, and so this PO amount might be a decimal value, and maybe the company and the vendor are strings. That's fine. And so we'll go ahead and now start creating a definition of this rule set. So we'll say that we're going to use all three of those parameters that we just defined. And we're going to create a couple sequences here. So for this first sequence, we'll say that if the company is equal to company 100 and the PO amount is between 0 and 1,000, and we can have any vendor at all. We'll just leave that at any value. Then we are going to say that the person who needs to approve this purchase, these type of purchase orders, and we can choose whether it's a user, a group, or from a user or group from a parameter. So we can pull a parameter that's come into when the application called this rule set. They can pass in a parameter, and we can pull that data from the parameter. We'll just pick a group here. There we go. And then we can set up another rule. We can say, well, if it equals 100 again, but this time it's between 1,000 and 10,000, then it's going to go to, let's say, a VP or something like that to approve. And we can keep adding these conditions until we match all the different scenarios in our business. So we keep adding different companies, different PO amounts. We can even add in specific vendors. But what maybe is for there's a certain handful of specific vendors that if the PO was for a specific vendor, then that needs to be approved by the head of that region or a VP or something like that. And we keep adding these. Now, I've only added a couple, but it's very common to add dozens or even hundreds of these depending on the simulation you have. For each one of these, I can also add a note to say, this is to handle the condition, blah, 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 and explain to someone else who comes in here, maybe the person that's going to approve this matrix, why I made that particular condition sequence. So when I'm all done, I can go ahead and simulate this. So let's say these are my only 2 rows. I click the simulate button, and then I can say, oh, if it was company 100 and PO amount $50, then I can see that, oh, it's going to match this rule, and it's going to be assigned to this Infor OS team. But if I say it was $5,000, then I can check and say, oh, it's going to evaluate over to my second sequence condition, and it's going to be assigned to Mohan. So I can keep going through and making sure that all different scenarios that I anticipate in my business are going to be handled by the correct business rule. So I can turn off the simulate. If I create a lot of these and then later I decide that I want to switch out certain people or certain roles, I can also use the replace function. So I can say, go find Bohan and replace with somebody else, Alicia, for example, and replace. And now every time Bohan was mentioned in any of my roles, it's replaced it with Alicia. So just a quick way to update and maintain your business rules quickly. Also, if you wanted to do this whole definition of this business rule in Excel, you could import this from CSV by clicking this button, or you can export it back out to CSV to keep a local copy for yourself in case you're afraid someone else may change it or break it. You can keep a backup copy for yourself. Now, when I'm done creating my rules, I'm going to click the Save button. And then when I can leave this, I can come back another day and keep editing it. But when I'm really done, I'm sure this business rule set is what I want. I can click the Submit for approval. Now you can see it's pending approval. And anyone who has the approval role can come in here, view it, and either reject it or approve it. Now, once I approve it, a few things are going to happen. This rule set kind of becomes locked down, and I can no longer add or change any of the parameters. I can always come in and add more sequence steps here or change the sequences, that's fine, but I won't be able to change any of the parameters, okay, once I approve this. And once I approve it, it gives me a warning. I say yes, and now I have a new version created. And the latest version is always the one that's being used. So the next time a workflow calls this, or next time somebody calls this via an API, it will be calling the newest version of the business rule, not any of the older versions. Now, if I wasn't creating an approval matrix, but just a generic decision matrix, it's really pretty much the same, except that as I create parameters here and then go into my definition, the difference is the parameters to check, I can click add here, and then I have parameters to set. So instead of choosing a person or a group or role to update when a condition is matched, I'm updating just another parameter. So I could be checking, again, a company, a location, an amount, whatever, and then updating some other field, a item number, a PO number, an invoice number, whatever, based on those conditions being met. And then when a workflow or a API calls this, they're going to pass in the input parameters, they're going to get back out the action parameter or parameters that are on the right-hand side. That's the basics of business rules in Infor OS. I hope you found it helpful.